Hello, everyone. All right, this is weird for me. I usually record videos and watch them re-record about 100 times, so bear with me as I figure all of this live stream stuff out. All right, so today we are going to talk about the 5 elements of healthy sleep habits as proposed by Dr. Marc Weissbluth in his book, Healthy Sleep Habits, Happy Child. This is my sleep Bible. My goal is to read this book every year because there are so many valuable things in it. There's so much information. And if you look how thick this book is, there's a lot of information to take in. So every time I read it, I get something new from it. So what I'm going to do is talk about the 5 elements that he discusses, because I know that you're a busy parent, and when you're sleep deprived, you don't really want to do a lot of reading. So let's talk about the 5 elements of healthy sleep habits. The 5 elements to top them off, we've got sleep duration, sleep consolidation, sleep regularity, sleep schedule and timing of sleep, and naps. So we're going to talk about each one a little bit, and then over the next few weeks, we're going to dive into each one, and then eventually talk about the science of sleep and how those all go together. You'll understand why these elements are important for your child. So first, sleep duration. This means the total amount of sleep that your child is getting for day and night, and the entire amount of sleep throughout a 24-hour period. Upon awakening, a well-rested child is going to be in a good mood and going to be able to play with themselves. If they are not getting the amount of sleep, then they are going to be fussy when they wake up. They're going to cry out to you. So that's a good sign to know whether or not your child is getting a good amount of sleep. Lack of sleep causes the central nervous system arousal, so your child is going to seem hyperactive if they are not getting the correct amount of sleep that they need. So don't think that your child that is wired or seems to just never calm down doesn't need as much sleep as other children. Your child is most likely overtired if they are acting wired or hyperactive. This is often something that is misread. So we just talked about sleep regularity. The second element is sleep consolidation. So this means uninterrupted sleep that is continuous and not disrupted by awakenings. The opposite of that would be sleep fragmentation. So first, it is important to note that if your child fluctuates between deep sleep and light sleep with a couple of awakenings throughout the night, this is normal. Everybody goes through these different sleep cycles. These are referred to as awakenings or arousals. So basically, everyone wakes in the middle of the night at some point a couple times. So it is common for your child to make light noises or even talk in the middle of the night. What matters, though, is how you respond to your child. The problem exists when your child has a difficult time returning back into that deep sleep by themselves. So pay attention to how you're responding. If you're needing to go in when it's not a true feeding, if it's a true feeding, then you're going to go into your child, you're going to go feed them. If it's not a time to feed, don't mistake an arousal from sleep to hunger. So we want to let our children consistently transition between one sleep cycle to the next, and when we are having to go into the room to help them out, that means that they're having sleep fragmentation, so they're not getting that consolidated sleep that they need. Same goes for naps. If your child is not getting at least an hour, although we want to aim for more, and we'll talk about that in a few weeks when we discuss naps further. But daytime sleep is fragmented when your child is getting less than an hour of sleep. Your child is also getting fragmented sleep or not very good sleep, not good quality, when they are sleeping in motion. So if you are relying on a swing, on your driving your child in the car, going for walks in the stroller, your child sleeping on the go, rocking them to sleep, your child is not going to get good quality sleep that is consolidated and getting all of those sleep cycles that they need. Although it is important to note that there are also protective arousals. So instead of just those arousals between sleep cycles that are in the middle of the night, there are also what we call protective arousals. So this prevents asphyxiation and can also help to prevent SIDS. Basically what happens is our brains will wake us if we are having difficulty sleeping, if we are having difficulty breathing while we're sleeping. So this can be caused by large tonsils, large adenoids that are obstructing the air passageway. So please listen to me here. If your child snores or mouth breathes, so not like if they've got a cold, but if they snore or mouth breathe when they are sleeping, please seek out a medical professional to make sure that they don't have any underlying medical issues that are preventing them from getting good quality sleep. Because what happens if this is the case is that even though they might seem like they're sleeping, even for kids who seem like they sleep well because their parents don't have to come into the night frequently throughout the night, this is still a sign that they might need to go see a sleep specialist because they are not getting those deep sleep cycles that they need. Their brain keeps waking them up and preventing them from getting into that deep sleep. So if your child snores or mouth breathes, please go see a medical professional. All right, so we've talked about sleep consolidation, we've talked about sleep duration, and now we're going to talk about sleep regularity. So sleep regularity just means that your child is sleeping consistently around the same times of day. Now, if you have a newborn, this is not going to apply to you. A newborn does not have a set schedule. A newborn sleeps, sporadically. Their circadian rhythm is not yet developed. However, if you have a child that's 4 months or older, sleep regularity is going to be very important. When your child has a variable sleep schedule consistently, it's like your child has jet lag. So we want to make sure that our child is on a schedule and sleeping regularly. Now, one of the big components when it comes to sleeping regularly is bedtime. This is one of the biggest issues I see with families that I work with is they don't pay attention to bedtime, or if they do, they're not doing it appropriately. Bedtime is often too late. Bedtime needs to be earlier, and bedtime needs to be regulated. So we want to be a little bit flexible with children that are younger, fluctuating between 30 to 60 minutes at the most. But normally they're going to bed around the same time at night, but we adjust the timing based on their level of activity during the day. We adjust it based on their duration of the nap that was prior to bedtime, the duration of the wake period prior to that, and the age of your child. For older children, so if you've got a child that's not napping, it is more important to have a regular bedtime than it is to fluctuate. So a regular bedtime is more important. It has been shown that a regular bedtime is more important than a bedtime that is earlier. So if you're a parent who has a child who's out late because of maybe they play sports, or maybe you work late and you've got to pick them up from daycare and you're having a difficult time getting home. For older children that aren't napping, it is better to have a consistent bedtime, even if it's later, than to have a fluctuating bedtime throughout the week. Okay, so we've talked about sleep regularity, sleep consolidation, and sleep duration. Now we're going to talk about sleep schedule or timing of sleep. We want to sleep and wake around the same times every day. This helps to stay in sync with our biological rhythms. It is important for your child in order for them to get good quality sleep. Regardless of how much sleep a child gets, needs to happen at the right time of day, or it can have a negative impact on their overall sleep. So let me say that again. Regardless of how much sleep your child gets, so let's say they're getting the appropriate amount of sleep for their age, if it is not happening at the right time of day, it is not going to be good quality sleep. So they still might seem tired or fussy or whatever symptoms you see when your child is not getting the right amount of sleep. Prior to 4 months though, like I mentioned earlier, newborns are not going to be on a schedule, but timing of sleep is important. We're going to pay attention to their wake window. Generally, babies that are 6 weeks or under, their wake window is about 45 minutes. So you would pay attention if they slept and they wake. The moment they wake, you start a timer for 45 minutes. Regardless of their sleep cues, you're going to have them down at about 45 minutes to an hour. 6 weeks to 4 months, the wake window is generally between that 45 minutes and gradually gets to an hour and a half. And then around 4 to 6 months, you will start to see the circadian rhythm developing, which means that a schedule is going to start developing, and that will start to fall into place. So the timing of sleep is going to be important for your child. After about 6 months, we start to follow the schedule more than we do the wake window. If this synchronization, this synchronization can be thrown off if parents do the following: keep their child up too late, have them napping on the go, skipping naps, or waiting too long to put your child down for a nap. All of these things can throw off your child's sleep, and we'll get into that more when we talk about sleep science. We'll discuss, the different hormones that contribute to your child having a difficult time falling asleep. But just keep in mind, it is important that your child is sleeping at the right times of day in order for you to get good quality sleep for naps and bedtime. I like this analogy that Dr. Marc Weissbluth uses. He compares your child sleeping to hunger. You don't prevent your child from having food when they're hungry. But oftentimes sleep is not as tangible. You can't make your child sleep. You can give your child food, but you can't make your child sleep. So oftentimes people put sleep on the back burner, and really sleep is just as important as food. We feed our children when they're hungry. We also need to let them sleep when they are tired. That means having all the components that they need, having them in their crib or their bed so that they can sleep at the appropriate time of day instead of trying to make them go all morning without a nap if they normally have a morning nap, or pushing a nap back when generally it happens around noon or 1. So something to keep in mind with this as well is that we never wake a sleeping baby unless we want to restore the sleep schedule. So the schedule is very important, especially the very beginning of the 24 hours. So when if your child generally wakes at 6:30 a.m., we want to wake them at 6:30 a.m. That way we can help keep the rest of the schedule in line with their biological rhythm. Now, although children rely on a schedule, one big mistake that parents often make, again, is bedtime. Bedtime does not need to be the same exact time every night. Yes, generally, like I mentioned, we're going to want it around the same time, but we have to remember to pay attention to our child's day, the level of activity, what time their last nap was, how long it was, how long they've been awake. And a good rule of thumb is pay attention to your child's mood between 4 and 5. If they are fussy or, like just falling apart, or they're throwing temper tantrums, it's just abnormal, that is a good sign that bedtime is going to need to be a little bit earlier than general. Alrighty, so we have talked about sleep duration, sleep consolidation, sleep regularity, and the schedule or timing of sleep. The last component, and I specifically saved this for last. Dr. Marc Weissbluth does not. He mentions it as the second one, but I'm saving this for last because in our society, this is a big chunk that is often not prioritized, and that would be naps. Not all naps are created equal. Not all sleep periods are created equal. So we want to make sure that we are not skipping naps. Naps are just as important as bedtime, and they are not just a substitute for nighttime sleep. The structure of each nap is different, and it provides a different purpose. So in general, naps provide alertness for learning and physical and emotional restoration, but each nap has a different purpose. Generally, the morning nap is more for emotional restoration, and that PM nap is for physical restoration. And so they are consistent. They consist of different sleep structures, and we'll go into all that more when we start talking about sleep science. But nap times are just as important as bedtime, and we need to make them a priority if we want our child having those healthy sleep habits and sleeping well. Now, don't take that to mean that you can never miss a nap. Obviously, life happens. You're going to have naps sometimes that are missed because maybe you have family in town, or it's a holiday, or there's just something that throws it off. But try not to let that happen very often, and when you can, rearrange the schedule so that your child can have those naps. I'm sure you've experienced what it's like when your child doesn't take a nap or a good long nap, or the right amount of time. This again goes back to the time that your child goes down for the nap. So try not to miss those naps and try not to push them later than they need to be. That is going to help your child prevent that over-tiredness state. Sleep begets sleep, and sleeplessness begets sleeplessness. So when your child is sleeping well during the day, they sleep well at night, and vice versa. Alrighty, so that was my first live. I'm sorry if I rushed through it. I will try to be a little bit slower next time. But a recap, so the 5 elements that Marc Weissbluth explains in his book is sleep duration, sleep consolidation, sleep regulation, sleep schedule and timing of sleep, and naps. These are all important, and they are dependent on one another. When one is missing, then the others can be thrown off, and you might understand that a little bit just based on what we've discussed now. But in the future, when we talk about the science of sleep, you're going to better understand why they are all important for one another. A well-rested baby with healthy sleep habits awakens cheerful and happy, and a tired baby awakens grumpy. So this is something to look for. If your child is waking happy and your child is able to independently play in their better crib, this is a good sign that they're getting all of these different components. If your child is waking tired frequently and grumpy and crying, these are signs that maybe we need to make some adjustments so that we can help them regulate their sleep. Alrighty, to get my reference to these 5 elements so that you can help your child create healthy sleep habits, feel free to download my document, Elements of Pediatric Sleep, at www.afterthestorksleep.com/elements of healthy sleep. I'll put it in the notes, in the comments below for you to download. It's a free document. It just kind of dives in a little bit to what we discussed here, and it's a good resource for you to have to make sure that you're not missing one of these puzzle pieces that might help your child get better sleep, whether your child is struggling with sleep or if it could just be improved. Do I have any questions?